Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, a weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, which means we've forgotten how to hold pencils.
Each week we're doing a challenge. One of us sits down and writes for 30 minutes. Our goal is to write a complete short story using 3 or 4 randomly generated words for that week.
Then we come on the podcast and we talk about what we learned in writing it. Then we talk about stories written by our listeners.
Exactly. We're simply here to help you do the right thing. A Doof Media production.
This week we are joined by our wonderful guest, Joey Wehnert. Hello.
Finally.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Thanks for sitting in silence for our 2 hours of preparation.
It was only 15 minutes and 51 seconds. It's fine.
Yeah, we're yes. So we had Joey do the right thing with us. I guess we should just introduce you. It's been a long time since I've done a guest that we haven't already introduced. Sorry. So I know you from our university's short film club. Actually, we were in the same orientation group.
Yeah,
together.
we were.
Which I always forget, but I know that I follow your Twitter. I love seeing all your 3D design, graphic design, 3D design.
Yeah, just the 3D render stuff.
Yeah, I love those. And you do other videos and stuff. My favorite was the Creature Teacher videos.
Thanks.
Those are great.
Actually, Matthias, I don't know if you remember this, and I don't think it was you personally who did it, but you were the one who emailed me and told me I was denied from North Texas Review for my script. Like, probably 2 years ago. Yeah.
Great. Cool.
Which, obviously, I know it wasn't you. And if it was you, then it's fine. It wasn't a great script anyway. But
if it was a couple years ago, it probably wasn't me. But
no,
yes.
it was like, I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember, but I just remember being like, "Hey, I know Matthias. He was in my orientation group." And then it was like, "We regret to inform you." And I was like, get him next year.
I don't think I sent the rejections, did I? Or if I did, it was probably like because someone else didn't for some reason.
Yeah, no worries.
Joey, what has your background been in writing?
So I wouldn't even consider myself a writer. I do enjoy writing a lot. I'm mostly a just screenplay writer. Screenwriter is what they tend to call them.
That counts as writing.
Yeah.
I love writing scripts and things. I'm mostly like I'd consider myself just a performer in general because I love theater and acting and comedy and directing and everything in between. I'm like a Swiss Army knife, but I'm not really good at any of the tools.
Jack of all trades, right?
But you have them.
Yeah, I mean, sure. All my tools are pretty dull. But yeah, I enjoy writing, but I wouldn't really consider myself a writer. So I was. The task of writing the story was daunting. I think it was fun. I had a really good time because once I started doing it, which every time like I do anything, every time I start doing it, then the boulder rolls and I really enjoy it and I'm having a good time.
Yeah. So to get into that,
nice.
Let's talk about what the words were this week. This week's words were Earthflax, Control, Nature, and Practice. Earthflax is a fun word that doesn't really mean anything, so
yeah, most people use it as a free space this week.
That's fun. So how was so you say it got the ball rolling, which is really encouraging to hear considering like that's basically like the purpose, right? Yeah, before I started doing this I would stare at the paper for like an hour and then be like, actually I don't want to write, what am I doing, and then go home. But this is one of the ways that I was able to get myself writing is set the timer and then you're like, fuck, well I gotta. So
yeah, that's kind of how it went down because before I clicked the timer I was like, I gotta think of like a concept or an idea or something, because usually when I write I write in my head for 6 months and then I blurt it out all into a page for an hour,
right?
Which is my most recent screenplay, which we made into a short a couple months ago. It was in my head for like 3 months, and then finally I wrote it all down in like 6 hours, and I wrote like 11 pages, and I was like, oh my god.
What's the name of that one?
That was Killer Comedy. It was
and if someone for whatever reason would want to see this, where could they find it?
It is not out yet, but a trailer came out like 3 weeks ago, I think.
Cool.
It was directed by Glenn Maxwell. I think his Twitter is ARG Maxwell. He posted the trailer. It's his pinned tweet, so you can see the trailer there. And I wrote it.
Cool.
And it's a lot. It's a good time. It's a good fun romp.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
But with this story, I kind of paced for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I want to do something with ghosts, I think. And then something like with vaporwave. Like I just ghosts and vaporwave were my two my head thoughts, which is where I have most of my thoughts. And so
by vaporwave, do you mean more like? Do you mean like the music, the kind of music that it is, or the like? I don't know what to call it. It's an aesthetic movement, basically.
Yeah, it's like originally I was like, I want to do something with ghosts and like maybe in a mall, because it's like most vaporwave kind of stuff is like people wearing pink jackets and sunglasses in a 1990s mall, like so early 90s though, not late 90s. And so
I wrote a thing about vaporwave and how it was another art movement that it's like connected to is basically Dadaism, which is like it's basically like you just throw kind of not nonsense together, but it's stuff that like does not actually belong together at all in any other like they're divided by time and space, and they're brought together into a space with like just like the bare aesthetics pulling them together. So you'll have like a white marble statue on like a light blue background. The only thing that's like working together is the fact that they're similar colors, but like the background is like shitty digital, like a desktop background, basically.
And that kind of leads into Outrun, which is a separate. I wouldn't even call it a subgenre, because I know the people who do vaporwave and the people who do Outrun like get mad when you confuse the two. But like it all kind of bleeds into each other, and it's all like internet stuff. Like, don't even get me started on Stone Punk. Don't even want to know what Stone Punk is.
Now I know about Stone Punk.
I'm googling these things immediately.
Stone Punk is, to sum it up, Stone Punk is cyberpunk, but instead of it being in the future, it's caveman.
Right.
Which is
like
so cool.
Flintstones.
It is the perfect mix of things that should never touch.
Oh,
the third image that comes up when I search that is the Virgin Steampunk and the Chad Stonepunk. So.
God, honestly, we need to bring steampunk back. I've been missing my gears. I've been missing my goggles.
Was it okay? I'm gonna say no there. I'm gonna deny that.
Have you guys done a steampunk episode?
No,
we have not. We should.
But we will next week.
That's a vibe.
How did vaporwave influence your piece here?
It didn't really end up like influencing it much. I was just like, okay, I want to do like cool 1980s ghost detective. But it really just ended up taking place in the 1980s, and that's it. Like it was. I mean, I listened to a lot of Billy Joel, so like I was listening to The Stranger,
The Man of Class.
The album The Stranger, while I wrote this. I mean, kind of inspired by like Buffy, Monster of the Week kind of like shows. There's a webcomic called Merry Death about a little girl and the Grim Reaper, and it's like Calvin and Hobbes, but it's a little girl and the Grim Reaper. Yeah, like just kind of a little mishmash of a couple things. It feels like a pilot to me almost. Like it feels like this should be the first episode of an animated series.
So anything else that we should know before we get into it?
I would just reiterate, I'm not a writer. Definitely. I'm a comedian and an actor. So
everything on our show gets written in 30-ish minutes.
Yeah.
So
and also
it's a first draft. Yeah.
Also, we have definitely written something drastically worse than anything you could possibly produce.
Don't worry.
So you have no problems whatsoever.
Well, you'll be surprised.
No. They're definitely in the probably top 50% of our stories.
We have created some garbage.
You're totally all right. The bottom slot is filled. Do not worry about it. So.
September 1st, 1989. Dear Diary. Mom still doesn't know. Honestly, at this point, I hope she finds my diary to keep me from having to explain anything to her. Like, I get it. I'm not like the other girls my age. That's not my fault, right? I don't see why seeing... The pink and orange book suddenly but calmly floated out of Michelle's hand. The shock on her face subdued as she rolled her eyes unamused. She groaned and snatched the book out of the air. You know, Michelle exclaimed into her seemingly empty bedroom, I thought you were practicing your sneakiness. I am incredibly sneaky, a voice rang out in front of her. As if on cue, a lit candle fell to the ground, spilling melted wax all over the beige carpet. Oh my god. The same breathy voice exclaimed from the vacant space in front of Michelle. I am So sorry. Slowly, a figure blurred into existence. A fat man, with the curliest mustache you've ever seen, floated above the spilled wax. Mickey, I will clean this up. His accent stuttered with embarrassment. The floating man tried desperately to pick a towel up off the floor, only for it to phase through his ghostly hands. You've lost TV privileges, mister, Michelle said through a laugh. Mickey, if I don't find out what happens on the next episode of A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, I will die, he pleaded. There are two things wrong with that statement, Ernest, Michelle said, laughing as she still snatched the towel from the floor. One, you're already dead. No amount of Scooby-Doo withdrawal will kill a ghost. Two, you already know what's going to happen. They solve the mystery just like every week. Besides, my brother tapes them to VHS anyway. Ernest gasped. You don't understand. It's the process. The journey Young Mystery Incorporated has to go through every week solving the case. It's not about the mystery. It never was. Oh, I sense your laughing is a sign that you were kidding about me being grounded from the TV, weren't you? Michelle stared at him, expressionless. For a 150-year-old British inventor, historian, anthropologist, he really isn't good at picking up sarcasm. Is it the anthropologist part that would be good at that? She thought to herself. Michelle let out another laugh. Come on. I've got a lot to do today. I'd like the company. Michelle and Ernest travel along the sidewalk in a not-so-yet-crisp early autumn air that is so typical for this time of year. Oh, I love the outside, Ernest yelled, knowing nobody but Michelle could hear him. Nature in its purest form. The lowly suburb of Portlandia. Portland, Ernest. Just Portland. Right. Ernest sighed, desperate to fill the room with words. He didn't like silence much. So, are you going to tell your mother that her little Michelle is destined for greatness? His words stuck around for longer than intended. Finally, Michelle felt the chill of the autumn air. I don't know, Ernest. Can't she just think I'm a normal kid? Of course not, my girl. Being a seer is incredibly important, Ernest said with pure theatrical fashion. You are the bridge between the realm of the dead and the realm of the living. Only you can control the darkness from both sides. I don't even have my driver's license yet. Michelle and Ernest walked into the old house and firmly plopped themselves onto the couch. The blues and browns of her mother's living room was so unsettling to Michelle. Why can't we just have a normal house? Sadie Miller's living room has a green carpet. That looks nice, she thought, desperate to think of anything else besides telling her mother of her somewhat supernatural sight. Honey, her mom yelled from the kitchen. Are you home? Yes, oh dear mother of mine, Michelle said as though she had seen a monster of some sorts. Oh, Mickey! The shrill voice of her brother Jimmy rang from the top of the stairs. Look what I found! The words echoed throughout Michelle's mind like something that echoes. The little feet slowly came down the steps while Michelle tried to decipher what her brother could have found. Then she realized it. Her diary. I'll kill you, you little dork, Michelle squealed through her teeth, hoping her mother couldn't hear. Oh, whatever is the problem, Mickey, Ernest said. Ernest, I am not ready. I'll tell my mother in good time, but as of right now, Jimmy cannot read what's in my diary. Michelle jumped towards Jimmy. Give it back, twerp. No! Jimmy screamed. You're always keeping secrets and talking to yourself, and I'm sick of it. I know you have secrets in here, and I'm gonna read it. Jimmy bolted to the kitchen where Mom was cooking. Mom! Jimmy screamed. Look! Oh, is that the new episode? Darla said. If you're good, we can watch it later. With a puzzled look on his face, Jimmy stared down at what he thought was his sister's diary, only to find a VHS labeled A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, Season 1, Episode 10. From the living room, Michelle watched with excitement. How did... Told you I was sneaky, Ernest said with a smile. It took him a minute to find the words. Michelle, you being a seer is important. Not just to me, but to the world. Both worlds. If you need to wait to tell your mother, I understand. Though she knew she'd phase right through, Michelle did her best to embrace her ghostly friend. Want to watch A Pup Named Scooby-Doo? She said. Duh.
I love this. This is wonderful. I don't know why you kept saying that you're not a writer and trying to reassure her for that reason. This is a great story.
Yeah, I mean,
well, thank you
honestly,
very much.
I absolutely loved how kind of slice of life this really is. How we're just entering into these characters' lives, and we get a great sense of every character because, like, you did a fantastic job with the dialogue. Like, I can definitely tell that you are used to writing a lot of screenplays because everything that's said is very purposeful and it pushes the story forward along with giving us a better sense as to what these characters were. And your reading, of course, just added so many more layers because you put on the most fitting voices for every character.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I initially, like, I wrote the first, like, 2 paragraphs, and I was like, okay, I've got, like, 26 minutes. What if I wrote this in screenplay format? And I was like, no, I can't do that. It's, like, 12:30 in the morning. I probably shouldn't message anybody and ask if that's okay.
I mean, you totally could have
been up.
100%.
Yeah, no, the dialogue here is wonderful. You know, you have this banter going on. The thing we're focusing on this week, which forgot to mention at the start of the episode, is setups and payoffs. The main setup and payoff here is with the a pup named Scooby Doo, right? And how that comes back. So yeah, when you started writing this, how did you keep that thread, that goal in mind?
Which I think the best setup and payoffs come naturally. Like you see it in episodic TV. Probably it's the most obvious in episodic TV. Like right off the top of my head, there's an episode of Ben 10 where Ben's upset because the freezer's broken in the RV, and he keeps opening it, and it just shoots ice, like projectile weaponizes the ice. And it shoots ice out, and then the end of the episode, Ben's like, "Oh, wait a second!" And he opens the freezer, and it shoots the alien with ice, and it whatever kills the alien. I don't remember, but like, so you see it in episodic TV a lot, and that's an example of, while I love Ben 10, especially like the original series, it's not very natural. And so I feel like while I'm writing it, I didn't plan on I didn't even know what the ending was going to be when I was writing it. I was just writing to see how far I could go, because I thought, well, maybe I'll have some kind of conflict where the mother gets the diary or something. And then I was like, wait, no, because like the mother would never read the diary. And I thought maybe a friend comes over and they're trying to hide it from a friend. But I knew the main conflict would be that someone's going to find out that she can see ghosts. But I didn't. I wrote the pup named Scooby-Doo thing because I thought it was funny. Like, you know, I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan. So I knew a pup named Scooby-Doo started the year before. So I wrote it.
Wait. Sorry. You just brushed by that you just knew what the year that Scooby-Doo started.
Yeah. Well, it's a pup named Scooby-Doo, which is the show. Yeah. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo was the last Scooby-Doo show they did before What's New Scooby-Doo. And it was like a 15-year gap. And it was only on like 2 years, I think. I think it ended the next year.
Yeah, because it was a critical failure, sadly.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah. It was not good. Great theme song, though.
Oh, yeah.
Not even kidding. Amazing theme song. But I'm a big Scooby-Doo fan, so I threw that joke in there because I thought it was funny, and I was like, oh, this, like, you know, 150-year-old ghost is a huge Scooby-Doo fan. That's hilarious.
No, I do really love the reasons you gave for Ernest loving that show. Like, it was good.
Very
humor.
good, yeah.
Well
thank you. But yeah, I write that in, and I had the line about him being sneaky in there, and then as I'm finishing it, I was like, oh, what if he just switched out the VHS? And so I went back up and added the line, you know, my brother always burns it to VHS, just to add that, like, okay, you know, they've got the VHSs, just flip it out. And I think I was very lucky, I think, because it just all came very naturally.
Well, I think the going back and adding some, it's not like this was the one path the story could have gone.
Yeah.
Right? Like you noticed you had this thread that you had from before, and you pulled it back in where there was an opportunity. And I think the going back and adding that extra thing is like one of the really important things with setups and payoffs and doing satisfying ones. It's like without that bit, and you know, in a bigger reveal, you might have more things to add in. It wouldn't hit as hard, even if like it works. You know, you do need that like reinforcement.
Yeah, and that's like that's something I notice I do a lot when it comes to especially jokes, like in scripts. Like there's a bit in Killer Comedy where a character just, like, because it's supposed to be a reference to Dexter, a character walks in with donuts, and he brings in donuts, and the main character, it's weird to only the main character, because it's 7 p.m. And they go, which donut place sells donuts at 7 p.m.? Like, no donut place does that. And then later on in the script, the two characters are talking, and one character goes, did you know he brought donuts? Like, 7 p.m.? Like, it was nighttime, and he brought donuts. And the guy went, ooh, that's weird. And I just, like, these little, like, I don't know, just, I like pulling things back in later, because I think mostly it just adds to comedy, and that's kind of what I look for.
Well, I mean, also that attention to like detail just really rounds out any story, right? And it very much so grounds it. Like, I know, first and foremost, I love Scooby-Doo. It's my favorite franchise of all time. So when I read A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, I loved it. And then as it seemed to continuously come up, it just kind of gave this ghost and these people so much more realism to it, right? Because I remember wanting to know what is next on A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. So yeah, it was a tool that was very well used to kind of make us believe these characters in this situation even more.
Yeah, I think an important distinction there is that the setup portion is something that works and feels natural in the first instance, even before it's worked back in. Like, it has an excuse for being there, which I think is a pretty important reason for why it doesn't feel like constructed. Like, for example, in the Ben 10 thing you mentioned, having a fridge that shoots out ice is kind of like, but why though?
Well, also,
right?
This is Ben 10 we're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough. Part of it, I think, is just making it not so obvious because it has multiple purposes for it being in the story.
I know at first when we were talking about this, you said that for you, it felt a lot more like a pilot, right? And I definitely got that feeling, only because, like, we are being introduced to all of these characters in rapid succession, to where we first have to get all of the pieces on the board for that payout to, like, really work. So I guess I have two questions, right? First and foremost, where do you see these characters actually going from here? And if you were to, like, take a second look at this piece, would you make it, like, as you said, more so of a pilot, or would you try and pick a different section of their adventure to explore?
I thought about it just a tiny bit, because I was in my own head a lot today at work, because we were very busy. And so I thought, like, I would like to explore what it means to be a seer, I guess. Maybe there's some kind of organization there. Maybe it's just a Buffy situation where it's like a girl gets picked, and then it's because that was even the only reason I added the whole seer stuff is, and I think it helps fit the story a lot better and, like, kind of help create a universe. But the only reason I did it is because I needed to get to control. Like, I needed to use the word control. And so I was like, okay, so she's a seer, and that she controls the darkness, quote unquote, or whatever. Like, that's kind of this whole, like, theatrical sort of thing. I don't know, it helped fill the world a lot, and I'd like to go more into that, I think. And I thought I've seriously been thinking about, like, rewriting this as a pilot, like, stretching it to, like, 11 minutes, like
go
a little
for it.
Animated series.
Definitely. I can totally see it.
It really does feel, like the pilot of a comedy specifically, like, of something that, like, or even a sitcom. I don't know. Like, it's less like
My Ghost Roommate.
If this was like a yeah. But if this was like a plot driven, like, I haven't seen Buffy, so I really can't compare it to. I really need to. One of our other podcasters, it's Scott's favorite show, and it's very, very, very into it. But the point I'm going to is that, like, this feel like in a more, like, drama / action focused, like, show, right? What would happen is that the worst thing would happen, which would, like, send the plot moving forward, right? The crisis would not be averted, right? It would escalate, right? And I think that's why this, to me, like, leans further into comedy in a really good way, is that that crisis is averted, but it's done for the sake of comedy, where rather than escalating stakes further, it also feels like it's a return to the status quo, which is something that, you know, sitcoms and stuff do.
I definitely I admire Buffy a lot, because I mean every episodic TV series in the past 25 years has been inspired by Buffy. And it's like, Buffy, I really admire it for its ability to balance the kind of seriousness, like, let's fight vampires and demons thing, and also, like, okay, but what dress am I going to wear to this dance? Like, and it's, you say that, and it's really silly, and it doesn't feel serious, but they always find a way to kind of intertwine everything, and I really like that. And I think when I was watching Buffy, because I watched it for the first time this year, I watched it all the way through.
Oh,
pretty
nice.
much, I watched like 4 seasons in like 3 weeks once quarantine started. It was crazy. But I would find myself getting annoyed with the slice of life stuff. Be like, okay, I don't care about Buffy going on a date with this guy. I don't care about her getting a job at a burger place. But like me writing this whole thing is slice of life. There's little tidbits of lore to a kind of grander universe, but this whole thing is just a little small, not saving the world, just problem at home thing. And it was so much fun to write. And so I can admire Buffy for doing things like that. Because it's just fun to, she sees ghosts, but she's 16. Like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, this definitely feels like this is not, the... well, it might be the opening scene, but it's like early on, and things are going to progress through beyond here, but also it's like not going to escalate. Like we are not in the first pages before a big hook, right?
Yeah.
This is what the normal is going to feel like, is what it is. Like, rather than, in the next chapter, a demon summoned and then she has to, drop everything to stop the demon or whatever, or her identity is taken. It's like, oh, she's going to stop some ghosts here, and then the next time, maybe she'll meet the organization, and then the time after that, maybe there'll be another one nearby. It's not shaking her normal so much that it's unrecognizably changed. She's not leaving home to go on a quest tomorrow.
And that's, it's also interesting that, like, your thought is like, oh, okay, she'll go fight a demon or something. Because even in my head, I don't even know what she's gonna, like, I don't even know what she does. I don't know if she fights demons or something. I think she...
I am influenced because one of the other podcasts on the network covers Pact, which is a web serial about demons and stuff. Which is very good.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it. And now there's a sort of sequel out called Pale, which you can start reading immediately. It's great. So I'm plugging to listeners in addition to you, Joey. So.
No worries. But yeah, I honestly don't even know what she does. In my head, when I was writing it, I was like, oh, she just sees ghosts. But I don't know how. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Maybe if Zack Snyder was doing it, she'd be like just a diplomat between the ghost world and the human world.
I mean, you were setting up a
translates.
whole bunch of stuff about, like, the importance of a seer and how it's important for both of the worlds. So I don't know. In like my reading it seemed like there was definitely a direction that it was going, and it would be this kind of serious story coupled with the hilarious antics that happen at home.
There's also I threw a line in there, just going into lore a little bit. I threw a line in there that says, "You're the bridge. You can only control the darkness from both sides." Because I really didn't want it to seem like that, like only the bad guys were coming from the ghost world. Like we definitely had just as many, if not more, bad guys here.
Anything else that we want to discuss about your story, or anything you want to talk about?
I didn't look up what episode of Scooby-Doo it was. I'm actually just going to search it up right now because I want to know what episode 10 is.
Episode 10
it's very
of
important.
A pup named Scooby-Doo.
Ghost Who's Coming to Dinner.
So
that's good.
So it's when they meet the Black Knight ghost.
Oh, but it's a ghost. That's crazy. All right. Anyway,
I think I wouldn't have been surprised if that was on purpose. I think that works.
It definitely wasn't, but I'm glad it happened. So.
All right. If you were to rewrite the story, Joey, what would you change?
There would be many more scenes. I think there's a lot of scenes between them walking outside and them coming home. I think there's a lot of scenes between. I think she goes to school, probably. Like there's probably like friends at school. She probably has a group of friends who know, or will know very soon. Like I like the idea of an organization trying to like recruit her, being like, hey, you need to like come with us, and we need to like work on your abilities. And she's like, I have math homework. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I definitely adding more things to help flesh it out. But I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
Just this short 1,000 words.
I mean, honestly, with you only doing it
Yeah.
within 30 minutes and having such like a tight and consistent story, like that's very commendable. Especially since this is your first time doing it.
Yeah. I think it was like 32 minutes, but like whatever.
That's fine.
So I
That's
cheated a little.
We've done worse.
What do you think you? Yeah, we have. What do you think you learned writing this piece?
What did I learn?
Yeah.
I just like it's so weird, and I'm such a hypocrite because I give the advice to people all the time, especially like I'll be like talking to someone and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not a good writer. I'm whatever," and I was like, "Just start.
Mm-hmm.
Writing is in the editing process. Like once you start writing, it just it happens. It just comes out of you." And so that's what I need to do more, because once I did this, I was like, "Wow, I'm having a good time." Because I work all day, just being like, "Man, I wrote a really good story last night." Like I loved that. And so when you need to write, just write.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to I'm really good with deadlines. I don't get a script done unless I have a deadline. But I need to just sit down and force myself to do it, because otherwise I'm not going to do it. And when you force yourself, it comes naturally, and it's fun and it comes out nice. So just force yourself to write.
I watched a lecture, a pep talk kind of thing. I think it was supposed to be a keynote speech, but there's no event because pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But Brandon Sanderson did one recently. Anyway, but he was talking a lot about how life is kind of, and writing in particular, is about finding the ways that gets you to do the work. Even Brandon Sanderson, who's like this insane writing machine, right? I think Wildbow writes more than him, but that's like he writes a book a month, right? Basically, like 80,000 words a month or whatever.
Wow.
And forever, he hasn't stopped. So to hear that, even he, has this difficulty of finding the ways to write, for me it was really reassuring. But it's it's about finding the way to get yourself to start and to go from there, basically. Yeah, just hearing that echoed in what you're talking about, Joey, I think is reassuring. And then when you finish it, you did the right thing. So
exactly. Finally. All right. Now it's time for our listener submitted stories. Well, first and foremost, before we go ahead and slide into it, I want to say we're about to spoil all of the stories that we're about to mention. So if you haven't read them, you should pause it right now, go read them, and then come back so you're not spoiled by what we're about to say.
So this week we're going to read stories by Jarby Joss, Ghost Pac-Man 4, Captain Rhino, Calciblue V2, and Protean Princess.
All right, and what is the first story that we're reading?
Jarby Joss with Tales of Port Saline 3. So this is the third chapter in their series, which has to do with superpowered crime. In this, we follow a woman named Ching. We have an interesting structure to the story. The first third is in the aftermath of some large explosion. She's kind of really confused as to what's going on. Then we flash back to a few hours earlier. We see that her power is fire, and she's actually the chef at this very fancy restaurant. And we see some cool stuff about how that power works.
Yeah.
We kind of feel like heat flowing into one location and out from another. And then we cut to a place in the middle where basically after the shift was over and everyone was going home, a heist was happening with this woman with this kind of the smoke that could burrow through the wall is going on. And so the accomplice to the smoke woman is holding a gun at Ching, and Ching decides to fight back and sets off a flame that bursts all of that smoke, and that connects us back to the first scene and the kind of post-explosion place that we were in.
Yeah, so I really, really like this entry. I think one of the best things is that it's just continuing with a lot of the world building that was set up previously. What I really, really liked was how in detail they went about how her power aids her at work. And I thought that was a really well-written scene. And also, I do like how towards the end we actually hop into some action, and it's handled very well, the natural transition between those two sections.
Yeah, I think there's also a setup and a payoff here as well, right? We have we have the post-explosion scene at the beginning, and that sets up the payoff that we have at the end, even though it's not, in that chronological order, that in the order of the narrative. This is, it's a setup and a payoff where now we know why there's an explosion. That's where it came from. So I really enjoy this. I really like the character of Jing that we get revealed over time. And I think it's a well executed entry in the series.
All right. So next up is Protein Princess with Perfect.
So this story follows this boy Alex, who is kind of at this mage school with this head mage Marissa, who had taught them. So Alex is very frustrated because he has, I think, killed a boy with magic. The majority of the story is focused on how the magic works, which is basically they tap into this sort of alter ego, their persona, which is from the other side of the veil. In Alex's case, it's a girl. I don't think we know her name.
No,
right?
it's just called the persona.
Yeah, his persona. And so basically while he was them, they hurt one of the other trainees, and then got out of the state, and now he can't fix it. Apparently the mages are so powerful that they can bring someone back from the dead, I think is the implication. So he's the main thing here is he's really struggling to get back into that state that he was able to tap into this alter ego, and he gets close one time and then he gets away, and it's just a lot of frustration and sadness here. But at the very end, I think he's able to tap into some positive emotions, and that's what summons the persona. And suddenly he's not Alex. He is the two of them, he and her at the same time. And it's it really does feel satisfying because like we have all this frustration lifted from us into this victory, and suddenly she is powerful. She's still crying, but she's like thanking herself and sort of believing in herself, and it's this really beautiful moment at the end of the story, and I really, really like it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it is exactly what we're talking about this week. There's this beautiful setup that's coupled with this world building that really dives into this really interesting magic system. And then at the very end, we are left in a place that could not be more satisfying. It's the end. It's the goal of them becoming this perfect being. And it's fantastically written. Really great.
Yeah. I just really enjoyed this. This felt very satisfying to read through. Getting over whatever the difficulty was just feels really nice, of just kind of not believing in themselves.
Yeah. All right. So next up is Kasubalu V2 with Fortress Magic Rings.
So this is another in that Magic Rings series with the magic book.
Yes.
So in this one,
honestly, this is starting to be the series that we stop in on every week.
Yeah. This is a new Ace of Swords Guard to a Mill. Yeah. So this woman Kara, in a previous episode she got this magic book, and we're pretty sure it's something related to earth magic. I'm pretty sure that was hinted before, which of course Kara doesn't really know that, but I think we do. So in this scene at the inn, this woman shows up named Nimian and is playing this game called Fortress, and Kara and Nimian sit down to play it, and it feels friendly. I get some little undertones that maybe it might eventually go into flirtatiousness. Who knows? So Nimian has this spell Earthflax that she's invented, which is great, of course.
Which honestly, great use of this week's words.
Yeah, not the only one to use it as a spell, and I enjoyed every single one that was. So Nimian does this spell, and we see it from Kara's perspective, and we see how Kara is viewing this in a magical sense, but Kara doesn't realize that she's viewing it in a magical sense. Basically, I think that what happens in the real world is that these sticks are turned into stone via magic transmutation, but in Kara's eyes, they just look more earthy, whatever that means. She just put more earth into the sticks. So Nimian, clearly is recognizing that Kara is seeing some magical stuff, and we get the implication that they're going to continue talking, and Kara might awaken to her abilities. And it ends with Kara's sister talking about the Inquisitors in the market who found a book. So it's a nice little capstone to this little scene.
Yeah, definitely. I see in the comments, the writer does says that it is very dialogue heavy, which is true, but I think the best thing about it is that every bit of dialogue is just working to fill out these two characters even more.
I mean, I think it's totally okay to have a mostly dialogue story, especially to do the right thing story. I mean, I've written ones where it was just dialogue, and I think those were, just as valid. So I think this actually was pretty well paced.
Oh yeah, very.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this one, and I'm always interested in how the story goes. Actually, so the game that we're playing is called Fortress, and we don't see that much of it, but I was getting increasingly interested in how this game works, even though Castle Blue admits that they don't know how the game works because it's made up. But over time I was getting increasingly. I really wanted to know. So, Castle Blue, if you do go back and finish off this piece, please show us the whole game, even if you don't know how the rules are. Just show us who wins and what the strategy is, because I really want to know. So, I thought that was really interesting. There's just this little detail in the background of the conversation. It was just basically some actions to fill out the dialogue is what I think it was structurally, was just really engaging, and especially so if it is reflective of the conversation or the characters. I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Sublu V2. And the next story we are going to be talking about is by Captain Rhino with Earthflax.
That's right. So here Captain Rhino really fixated on the word Earthflax, and I think they did it in a really interesting way, right? Earthflax is originally this type of asbestos, right? That's made into a certain kind of cloth, essentially. And so in this, we have these two earthbenders, essentially, right?
Pretty
earth
much.
Manipulators working together with Johan is a sort of apprentice to Marg, who's a dwarf, and they're working to weave earth, basically. After this initial scene, which I thought was really interesting, it feels sort of like teaching pottery, right? Except it's mass earth telekinesis, right? They go back to the houses, and the whole village is made out of these Earthflax huts that Johan just can't get the hang of just yet. So the conversation then continues, and we get some world building in here. Marg is a dwarf, Johan is from human kingdoms, and over there, earth mages and earth people who can control the earth aren't taught really skilled stuff. It's more like they're employed to just do strip mining and nothing with any finesse. And the human masters of earth telekinesis, they don't take very many apprentices. So Johan is going to the doors over here, and we kind of get a hint of the relationship, and it's pretty positive. Of Johan respects Marg, and Marg is willing to teach him if he wants. So yeah, I thought this was I really liked the interactions here, and it made me warm to both of the characters and want to see them interact in the future.
Yeah, very much. I think the best part is honestly about when he is actually molding the Earthflax, and how in detail they really go into exactly what makes it stronger, and about the frame, and all those other things. And I just really love that attention to detail about this magic system.
I wanted to see more of this magic system.
Very much.
The next story is by Ghost Pac-Man 4 with an untitled story. So this is this one's interesting. So we have this person go into the forest, and they have a magic lamp of a genie. And the very beginning of it sort of implies that they're kind of in an action setting. They're running away from pursuers. They're in the forest to hide.
Honestly, it reminds me so much of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, definitely. So they end up in the middle of the forest. The genie comes out. This cool setup to the beginning of this, right? The genie will grant one wish, but the only rules or stipulations and stuff is just whatever the genie wants, right? And I think it's a interesting subversion of those expectations, and I really enjoy that. It's not only character wants to know the rules, right, asks about the rules, and then, which is already a subversion of the expectation, and then that's subverted with there being no rules, and it's just the genie doing whatever. So just what I thought interesting. So they wants to know all the rules, and then the person starts their wish, and they just want that thing that they want. They want the thing that they want. They don't know what it is, but they want it. It's just not there, but they know it should be there, but it's not. So what's really fascinating here, so it goes Pac-Man 4, goes through this kind of, it almost philosophical, and it's this like deeply like uncomfortable thing where this person feels something is missing all their life and they just can't get it, whatever it is, right? And so we're building up this kind of expectation and kind of feel like either whatever answer the genie gives is going to be profound, right? It's either happiness, right? Or it's, maybe it's actually a romantic partner.
Yeah.
Or maybe, they need to find out who their real self is, I was seeing some, some gender reflections there maybe. So whatever it is, it's going to be profound, right? And then the genie does a transformation. Smoke appears, revealing the genie as a normal person. And then the genie says, I know what you mean, a personal life coach. And it's just like... It was built up so much. Yeah, it's great. I love it so very much.
Oh yeah, and I mean the dialogue instantly, like as I was reading it, I was extrapolating so much like comedy and comedic timing to where I almost felt like this was like a lost scene from the first draft of the Aladdin movie.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like I just love that interaction between him and the genie, and how kind of manic this person is about that thing, and I think it comes across very well on the page, which is really hard to like do. It's really hard to bring those sort of strong things over on page. So I thought that was done really well, and of course the payoff, right? The subversion at the very end was completely unexpected for me, but I wouldn't have ended it any other way.
Yeah, I think something that makes this really work, right, is that there is the slight undercurrent of humor in this, right? Where,
yes, and it's very slight. Yeah,
where, the person being manic, and it's something that, like, you could almost imagine in your own life, right? Like, it's something that's kind of, you could see yourself reflected in it, so you really do want a real answer, right? So there's that seriousness, but then we see glimpses of the genie's reaction, and the genie's just like, oh my god, just chill out, man, right? Like, is concerned by how manic this person is getting, but it's something that you can ignore if you focus on the seriousness. But then when we get the personal life coach, right, suddenly all that like uncomfortableness of the genie slots right into place.
This is a really fantastic story that I would definitely recommend people go and read. It's a really nice ride.
That's right. Okay, that is all these stories we have this week, but we want to personally thank every single person that did the right thing this week. I know some people came back from a long time ago and they're starting back up again. I think that's really, really cool.
So thank you very much to Sarah Penguin.
Thank you to Paradox.
Thank you, Kamikaze Tomato.
I know that Kamikaze Tomato hadn't written in a while, so thanks for coming back in. It's good to see you. Thank you to No Goodbye.
Thank you, Jarby Jazz.
Thank you, Kausubalu V2.
Thank you, Captain Rhino.
Thank you, Ghost Pac-Man 4.
Thank you, One Mary Lilac.
Thank you, Vivichuk.
Thank you, Ace of Sword. And also, I would love to give a huge thank you to all the people that left comments. Leaving comments is pretty much half of the battle. Not only does it allow you to assess someone else's work and give them pretty good feedback, but you also get a better understanding on how to analyze text and make your own text better when you are writing. So thank you very much to Sarah Penguin.
Ghost Pac-Man 4,
Paradox,
Kausublu V2,
Protein Princess.
You guys did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed your comments, guys. So please keep that up. And of course, when you leave 2 comments, your chance of getting selected goes up as well. And the other way it can go up is by becoming a Doof patron.
Exactly. So, if you want to be like all these wonderful writers and want to submit a story that you wrote to this podcast, you can do that by going to /r/do the right thing and going to the most recent week's words.
That's right. That's where I also keep forgetting to post the threads for the episodes. So,
but it is completely fine.
Yeah. To be fair, I went to a protest that day, so I forgot. I was busy.
Yeah. So you missed it for the right.
I missed it for the right. That is the only reason that I should ever. And then I forgot to post the words on time I had no reason. I just forgot. So
you weren't at a protest that day?
Yesterday? No, it wasn't. So
I was trying to save you.
No,
you could have said
no.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie about my involvement in a very important movement. I'm not gonna lie for the clout, Jarvis. Okay, so if you want to let us know what's going on, or want to tell us how bad we're doing, or how great we're doing, or just to just say what's up, you can send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com.
Exactly. And if you want to see next week's words as soon as possible, I'm talking a full 7 days, y'all. You can go to our Twitter, which is at rightthingcast. Yo, what is doof?
Don't you mean doofs up, bro?
No,
That's not what you meant to say. That's what I wrote in the script. Doofs up.
I'm talking about the doof.
Oh, okay. Wow, incredible. So this last Friday, the Game Club had their meeting
with a question mark.
Live recording of So Elliot and Ruben broke down and talked about the game Transistor. I only was able to watch a little bit before I had to record, but I really, really enjoyed what I saw. I, of course, really enjoyed when they covered Hollow Knight. They did I'm sure they did a fantastic job of breaking it down. It's a really enjoyable show because they not only talk about their experiences and the mechanics, but they show some gameplay, and they talk about basically every aspect and how it creates a complete experience. Next month, meeting in a month, we'll be covering FTL, Faster Than Light, which is one of my top 5 favorite games, probably of all time, top 10 of all time for sure. It's a really, really great game. So I'm really looking forward to them talking about that. Oh. Otherwise, I also want to plug We Want More, because it's been a really long time since I plugged that, I think. We Want More is the Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality Analysis podcast. They're going through that fan fiction. I'm really enjoying it. I've kind of fallen off all of our wagons on the Duke Network in the past week or two.
Well, you've been quite busy doing your own podcast.
Yeah, that's very true. But it's a really enjoyable thing, just hearing the recaps and sort of getting some more analysis and explanations of what's going on in that story.
So, if you want to support us by, monetarily, the best way to do that would be to go to the Doof Media Patreon. Not only will you be helping us and everyone else in the Doof Network create wonderful content for you and others, but you will also get access to the Doof Media Discord, which is filled with just a whole bunch of great conversations about any topic that you could possibly want to talk about. Also, it's a great way just to talk to us if you have anything to really say. And all you need to do is donate $1 or more per month.
Yeah, and I mean, seriously, consider it, guys. I've really enjoyed joining the community, especially with quarantine and the ongoing troubles.
It's helped out a lot.
Yeah, just to get some socialization with some pretty positive people. Additionally, I just want to point out that the next patron goal is an original audio narrative that we'll all create. That we are only 40 patrons away from that, so that's pretty damn close. And I'm really, really excited for what we have imagined for that. So absolutely, some cool stuff going on. All right, let's get into the words.
Yeah. So the words for this week are... Can I get a drum roll, please? Thanks. The words for next week are gallery, heat, likely, and persona.
So a gallery, as in like a gallery wall, where like somewhere that art is shown. Or I think you could also have a shooting gallery. So like I guess a gallery is like a kind of hallway, isn't it?
Well, I guess it's just a place where a lot of objects are in.
A place where a lot of objects are in. Yes, that is. Yep. Heat, as in that something is hot, or heat, as in like cops going to get you. Like you have a lot of heat. It's an option.
Or heat, as in the sexual sense.
Or heat, as in isn't that like a race term? I think
you're thinking of Need for Speed.
No. Likely, as in not a very likely story, and persona, as in a kind of personality that you put on yourself, or a personality that you are showing off that might not be the true you. So,
or the very popular video game franchise.
That's right. So Jarvis, what story are you doing next week?
Well, I'm actually not writing next week.
Yeah, next week. Okay, real quick. Next week, I'm doing a story. I'm going to try to focus on dialogue. I already committed to that because I already posted the thing, so I got to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. But if you were to write a story next week, which one? What would you write?
If I were to write a story next week, I would just write the best fan fiction of Persona 5.
Of course.
It's a fantastic game. I love running around Japan with all of my Japanese friends, going to the mall, going to the doctor and letting her do weird experiments on me. And then also going to the underbelly of the city so I can fight all of the bad feelings that everyone is feeling. But after writing that for so long, I'll probably get pretty bored because the sad fact is that the game Persona 5, I get pretty bored because it's the same thing over and over again. So, to add a little bit of spice, I'm going to make it to where instead of when I shout Persona, some sort of demon beast comes out. But when I shout Persona, I just keep getting drunker, right? Just keep on
this
getting...
is fascinating.
Yeah, just keeps on getting there.
It sounds like you're getting drunker right now.
I'm not, actually.
Just
so yeah,
no.
as I keep on shouting the word, I'll keep on getting hotter, creating more heat. And one thing that I really like to do when I am like damn skippy smashed, I want to go to a art gallery, specifically so I can look at the ugliest photo, and just really stare at it and think, why is this here? And after I go to the gallery, I will rob a bank and become a likely suspect. Yes,
wow,
that's the whole story.
Wow, I think that's probably in your top 5 most rambly ending of episode stories. I think. Yeah. Okay. So the story I'm gonna write. So it takes place at a shooting gallery. There's 2 guys there. All right. They're shooting their guns, but then they start arguing and things start getting heated, right? And the security footage shows the likely story is, so they had this heated argument, and then one guy, the first guy, he starts to say, "Get out of my persona," and he's gonna say personal, but it cuts off before the L, so I can say persona, and the other guy shoots him.
Wow.
And that's
a great story.
Yeah, get out of my persona.
So,
Joey, what story are you gonna write next week?
Avatar fan fiction.
Got it.
Okay.
So, so it's a detective, and he's got this speech impediment where he says like at the end of a lot of words, and person just has to be at the end of one of them. So he's hunting down, looking for a person, and also who's looking for this person is the cops,
right? And
they're hunting down, and the final shootout is at an art gallery. And it's not likely that they all survive.
Excellent. What another
Bravo.
fantastic entry
Bravo.
to this podcast.
So, Joey, is there anything that you want to plug?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I make YouTube videos. They're like video essay kind of things. I analyze movies and stuff, and I make 3D animations. You can find them either on my Twitter, which is just at Joe Wehnert. My Wehnert is Wehnert. You can find me on YouTube, just Joey Wehnert. I'm on TikTok, which is at Joe Wehnert. And you can listen to my podcast, Keep It Short. We interview people about film. We're taking a little break right now because of world events, but we'll be back like next week. So
yes, well, I really hope you come back on at some point. It'd
be fun. I had a lot of fun today.
Yeah, and God, we're so bad at outros. We gotta find a way to streamline this.
On Keep It Short, we just have music that fades us out, and so that's usually what we're like. Okay, so we're rambling, we're talking, but the music's kind of fading us out, and then I just fade it out. So it's
except we always say,
and I mean that's pretty much how we
do the right thing.
Except one of us has to say
the end,
do
right
the
there.
right
That's
thing.
It. We did it. That's it.
And then we fade out.
Make it meta. We're gonna make it meta, Jarvis.
That's great. I'll play
We're
it.
gonna make it meta. That's the end of the podcast. We're done. That's it.
What do you say?
Finished.